Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today on the EdPower Table Talk. We have the absolutely amazing Dr. Judy Warden Fields here with us today to chat about what it takes to become a Blue Ribbon school. And I have been very privileged to work in the field with Judy over the last several years, but want to tell you a little bit about her. Dr. Judy Warden Fields is currently the Chief Executive Officer of Blue Ribbon Schools of Excellence and is a nationally recognized expert in the education policy and school improvement area. Dr. Fields served as a senior appointee to former President Bill Clinton and was an absolute key voice on educational policy at the United States Department of Education. She headed up the USDOE in the South region and advised both the Secretary of Ed and the President on the national education agenda. And before this appointment, she served as Al Gore's statewide education policy advisor. We sort of had some interactions way back at that time when I was at Florida Virtual School. The team that she works with now is made up of nationally award-winning practitioners in the education field who have turned around some of the country's most challenging schools, and I've witnessed that from afar. And it's absolutely been a privilege to work with Judy and her team over the last few years. I also sit on the board of Blue Ribbon, and I'm very, very excited to allow Judy to talk today how you can become a school and have the field for anybody to answer the floor with Judy and answer questions. So thank you so much for joining me today, Judy.
Thank you, Michelle. It's a real treat to be here and be with you. You and I have, you noted, have a long history of working together in the national education space, and admire you and your work and the work that EdPower's doing. So thank you so much for allowing me to be part of the conversation.
Absolutely. Now, I know we have had several questions over the last few stops in districts that we've been in on a lot of what's going on with Blue Ribbon. How do you become a school? I feel like you've really started to gain traction over the last 3 years with the work that you're doing in schools and making a big difference. So I have a lot of questions that I would like to cover with you today, but I'm going to turn it over to you to run through these, and I'll just interject as you go. Are you okay with me manning this for you?
Absolutely.
All right. So
absolutely. So you can jump to the nine critical areas that we're going to be looking at with the assessment. I think it's the next slide, Michelle, that looks at those 9 areas. There you go. One of the things that Blue Ribbon does is we come in once you invite us to come into your school or your district, and we're looking at those 9 areas that are indicative of high-performing schools: student focus and support, school organization and culture, challenging standards and curriculum, active teaching and learning, technology integration, professional community, leadership and educational vitality, school, family, and community partnerships, and indicators of excellence, your test scores. So those are the areas that we're looking at, that the survey is assessing when we come into your school or your district. So now I'll just continue to go through those 9 areas. I'm not going to read slides to you, but we can flip through those. And then if you have questions after we get through these 9, maybe Michelle would be a time to pause and see if there's any questions. Student focus and support, of course, is our first indicator that we're looking at. And here we're looking at student voice and planning. We're looking at the use of data to improve program offerings for students. And we're looking at the development of programs based on student needs. It's very important to grasp that, to grasp the student voice. And when we come on site, and Michelle, I know you've been on site with us at several schools, we also do a student focus group. So we want to validate the findings that we're seeing in the survey. And when we come on site, we're going to gather a group of students to further validate our findings in the survey. The next area we look at is school organization and culture. And here we're really looking at, is your faculty and administrators working together? How are you using your data? And I know that's a key point with you and EdPower, Michelle, is how are you using that data?
Yeah.
You have the data, but really, how are you using it? And then that, is your school a great place to learn? And so those are the things that we're assessing in the survey. That's the second criteria that we're looking at, the performance indicator, and very, very important that you have a very positive school
Yes.
culture. The third thing is challenging standards and curriculum. So that kind of stands on its own. Is your curriculum matched to the standards? And then we're looking, of course, at that rigor when we do our classroom walkthroughs. We're wanting to look at the rigor of your teaching practices. The fourth area is active teaching and learning. So here we're looking at our students engaged in their learning by not only thinking and discussing, but also investigating and creating in the classroom. So important when we do those walkthroughs. What are the teachers doing? What are the students doing? What's that level of engagement? Technology. Wow, has this one changed? One of the things that Michelle and I talk about often is how did COVID change the education landscape? And I think this is really the hot button here, that so many schools now are prepared. If there is another pandemic or any type of disruption, that we are prepared to go virtual.
Yes, sure.
Another area would be your professional community. And again, really listening to your teachers on what they need, doing some needs assessments with your professional community on what are those needs that they need, and also getting in and out of the classroom as administrators, that you are doing those walkthroughs and providing that feedback, and then providing that time for your colleagues to come together and rather vertically or horizontally, or getting them out to professional conferences.
Okay.
Another area, of course, is leadership. And here we're talking about the skill development of a leader and creating that purpose and direction, that the leader knows their purpose and direction and their vision and their mission, and that they're focused on learning and teaching, not only on leading, but also on really getting in and out of those classrooms and providing that curriculum leadership as well.
Oops, sorry about that.
Okay. School, family, and community partnership really stands on its own, but really giving the community and parents a voice as far as the direction of the school. What are those things that you're doing for parent engagement? And then lastly, the indicators of success. And here we are talking about test scores and the methods that you're using to assess students.
So, Judy, I want to ask you, as someone looking at this with, from novice eyes, I feel like I might be intimidated by all of the things that you just went through. And I know the process is not intimidating because I have been through the process with you. Can you kind of explain what that survey, how that's run, and then what a principal would be, looking at going through with you? I know we did walkthroughs, and it was really just taking a look at exactly what you just said. We chit-chatted with the teachers, we observed what was happening with the students, sort of collected notes throughout on different things. We were able to speak to the students and different things when I was at one of the stakeholder walkthroughs, and then reviewed all of our information with the leadership staff there to create a plan moving forward of professional development. But maybe you can just talk a little bit about that, so it doesn't seem like it's really a daunting situation that people are facing.
It's not, and that's a great question. We really don't want it to be looked at as, oh my gosh, here's one more thing.
Right.
It really is a way to pause and take a pulse of how you're doing, again, based on national indicators of what great schools are doing. No matter where you are, in your school as far as achievement levels. We work with turnaround schools. We work with taking schools from good to great, and also those schools that are already at the top end. But we're trying to challenge them and get them to look at things or tweaks that they can make to push a little further. So we've been very successful in working with schools and districts that may be a D on their report card, or even a school that was an F. And we've worked with them to move them forward to an A performance. We've also worked with schools, again, that are just looking for those tweaks and practices that we feel like we bring that level of expertise with our team of school practitioners that have been national award-winning educators.
Okay, I'm gonna pause because I think you're gonna review it moving forward, but I do have some more questions for you. So the process, and this even goes even further in it, exactly what we're talking about. And I think it's really important for you to discuss all of this.
Oh, absolutely. So, and I've been doing this today as my in office day. So I've been on the phone most of the day with schools that are right at this step. So once a school decides that this is something that may be a fit for them, we get on the phone, we talk to them about the Blue Ribbon School process and the steps. And the first thing, of course, is the survey. This is a validated assessment, validated through Virginia Tech. And so we're going to survey all of your 5 stakeholder groups. We're going to survey your administrators, your teachers, your support staff, your students, and your parents. And we're going to gather all of that data before we come on site. Then when we come on site, we're going to spend a couple of days with you. And it truly is, as Michelle noted, when we're on site, there is a walk with purpose. So we're going in and out of every classroom. We're looking at what's going on in the classroom as far as engagement. We're meeting with that parent focus group to continue our validation of our findings, the student focus group, the teacher focus group, and then, of course, the exit meeting is where we give you that action plan and those next steps. And that's where we continue virtually working with you through the school development. And then we have our recognition, which we'll talk about it at the end as far as our national conference, which we're in our 24th year of our national conference at Disney. And it's an exciting time.
It is.
So the classroom, the school visits, again, when we come on site those first 2 days, the main purpose is getting in and out of every classroom. We want to walk in every classroom that you have. We ask that the principal walk with us. We're going to be going in the classroom, stepping out in the hall. What did you see? What are the things that you think that could be better? It's really what we would call a walk with purpose. When we're on site for those 2 days, we're going to be continuing the validation of our survey findings with meeting with your parent group, a student group, and a teacher group. We're going to review the data with you during the exit session. So it's not, here you go, see you later. It's really a way to say, here's where we're at. Here are those successes that we can celebrate. And wouldn't you want to know? Wouldn't you want to know where you are on this path? And then what are those opportunities for growth? So how can we work hand in hand on those opportunities for growth?
Absolutely.
The reports that we're going to give you at the end of our visit are the areas of strength. So those things that are going really, really well, and your stakeholders acknowledge that. The needs improvement, and I see I misspelled the word there. So immediate action, which is the needs improvements that we really need to work on. The critical areas, there's 21 areas that are embedded in the survey that we deem critical. So what are those? No consensus, which is my favorite report, which is where one of your stakeholder groups, maybe your parent stakeholder group is saying something different from your student stakeholder group. So we want to look at that. And then we dig deep with the student grade level report and looking at first grade, second grade, third grade. What are the students saying? What are the teachers saying? And then the total accumulation of data, the action blueprint is what we're going to use on that path forward. And then we're going to share the anonymous survey comments with the principal before we leave. The exit meeting is after the 2-day visit. We're going to be talking to the principal throughout that process. So it's not like we want you to just go sit in your office. We want you walking with us. We're going to be talking with you about what we're finding. We're going to be looking at the report together. We're going to give you the feedback from the focus group. We're going to show you the areas of strengths that we've identified, those opportunities for growth. We're going to let you see kind of where you're at on the award eligibility chart, and then those next steps that we see.
Okay.
This is actually an example that we pulled from an exit meeting at a school where we were looking at areas of strength. And these are the ones that were available or we identified at that school. So you can just kind of pause here a minute and look through those. Sometimes the assessors will provide 2, 3, 4 pages of the areas of strength, but I just wanted to share an example with you of things that we're looking for and that we've identified in a high-performing school.
I just want to back up a little, Judy. When you were
Yeah.
talking about the student parent group for a question that came in, and I've witnessed the uncomfortable conversations that you've had to have with both of these. And when you're saying that they don't necessarily match, so like the students are saying something, the parents are saying something, and they don't necessarily go together. How are you handling those? And what have been some of those discrepancies that you've had to face?
Yeah, great question. I know when we're on site, we meet first with that parent group the first day.
Yeah.
And then later in the afternoon, we meet with the student group. And that's where we would share those discrepancies with the principal. But we would also encourage them, if they don't have a student group already formed, that they continue that conversation with what we would call the blue ribbon student group or the blue ribbon parent group, that they are continuously talking with these groups where they can work through some of these challenges or some of these differences that we're seeing.
Is there anything that you're seeing as a trend?
That's a great question. Just trying to think of something right off. There's several that kind of pop to mind, but
I know in our world it's behavior disparity and discrepancy. I don't know if you face that as well, but
oh, absolutely. I was thinking of bullying. You know, sometimes you'll have parents or, like, well, we don't have a bullying problem at our school. No, we don't have a bullying problem. But you'll have the students say, absolutely, there is a bullying problem here. So that's where the leadership can dig deeper and bring in the counseling team and really figure out what's going on at the school.
So to thread that out for those that are listening, if bullying or behavior was an area of weakness for the school, how does Blue Ribbon insulate that bullet point to make sure that you're tracking towards progress?
Absolutely. So this is where we're in hundreds and hundreds of schools all across the country. And so we would share best practices with you to where maybe how they're addressing this particular issue at a certain school that's very common to or very consistent with your school. So that's one of the other things that we have at hand is best practices and just that experience of being in so many schools.
Yeah. And amazing consultants that have all walked in the shoes of the educators that are also there to help as team members for your walkthroughs. You spoke about that some of the schools you've taken from a D to an A. What is that time frame?
I'm thinking of a district over in Alabama that we came in, and the superintendent said to us, he said, I'm doing some really good things here. My students, my faculty, my community, we're really on fire, but we know we can be better.
Mhm.
He said, I want you to come in and assess all 25 of our schools. So we moved through that district in what we call cohorts. So we worked with 9 in the
Mhm.
fall, and 8, and then 9. So that was about a year and a half to really watch
Right.
all of those schools move forward and really make those shifts and those tweaks. So it was about a year and a half for that district to really watch them grow. But what an investment for them to make.
I have the chills. Like D to an A in a year and a half. It's almost
I know
everybody needs a
sometimes
blue
they
ribbon.
are those
Yeah.
low-hanging apples,
Yeah.
and absolutely.
All right. So we were talking about examples of what you're finding when you're going through the different indicators on the assessment. So I'm going to continue on with our opportunities for growth.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So here's where I love the term opportunities for growth. And so here we're looking at those. I go back to using the word tweak, have you, or shift. So it may be that, teachers are working as hard as they know how to work, but it's what are they doing, and what are they doing with that time? So that's where our team would come in and ask the question, have you thought about this? Have you thought about maybe shifting to this? So here, this is actually from a school fairly recently that a assessor shared on her PowerPoint as she was leaving the school. So these are some real clear, actionable items that she felt like that they could make. And so as she's continuing that coaching process, she's going to be revisiting this. One of the things that we do when we leave, and there's the opportunities for growth that fall on the action plan, we do a shared Google document with the principal. So we have that live document where we're going back and forth and having that communication with them on the evidence that they're providing and our feedback on that evidence. So it's really a work in progress.
Okay. Here it is.
Yes, I love this. So now we're getting down to the nitty-gritty. And so this is actually one of the items that is assessed. And this falls under one of the performance areas, school organization and culture, which was the second item that I discussed. And here we're looking at students show respect. So we see that the administrators are pretty much on par. It's a 2.3, and we're looking for a 2.3. The teachers a 2.2, the support staff a 1.8, the parents, and Michelle, I can't see the final score because
2.3 is the parents,
and what's the
students is 1.8.
Okay, so here's a good one where the students are thinking a little different. So that's how you would want to read the report. You would want to look at all these new needs improvements with the students. And so maybe we want to drill down a little deeper into what's going on there and what the students, when you meet with the student group or your student leadership team, what are those things? Why do we have 138 students saying that this needs improvement, that teachers or that students are not showing respect?
Great. Okay. And just to clarify, this is a example of a piece of a report that would be given to a principal.
That's right. That's right. So we have 120 areas that we're assessing, and this is one of those.
Okay.
So this one, because it is a 2.1, would fall
Yeah,
on the action plan.
got it.
So how are you going to address that? How are you going to make those improvements? And that's where we would ask, do you have a student leadership council? Do you meet with a student group once a month? You know, what are those things that you're providing that would allow for student voice?
And then the next iteration, you would look at that 138, 137 to make sure that those numbers are going down
Mm-hmm,
to
mm-hmm.
get them closer to being an actual blue ribbon school. Okay. And then another example here.
Yeah, so this is at the end. This is the professional community, which is another one of the nine areas. And this is kind of a summary report. So right here, you're seeing all of the areas that are in that professional community. So you're seeing all of the ones that are met, and then you're seeing all of the ones that are not met. And then you have this one sticking out in green that is the new teacher mentoring program that's not met. And it's a critical area because we know great schools, high performing schools across the country have a strong new teacher mentoring program.
Yes.
And not only do they have it, but their stakeholders know they have it. So what I have found, Michelle, is that in so many of the schools, they have this program, they bring it out and show it to me, but that doesn't really help. You know, they need to share that with their school community. Their teachers need to know it. Their parents need to know it. Their administrators need to know it, that the school district is investing in new teacher mentoring.
Okay. And then how do we get eligible for all of these? What are the levels? I'm hoping we're going through that now.
Yes. So once we finish up, this is a pretty good report here. So we're looking for 80% passed in all of the 9 critical areas. So we've got a little bit of work to do with this school and this school example. There's probably a couple of areas in school organization and culture that we want them to address. Active teaching and learning. There's 4 or 5 areas there that need to be addressed. And then there's several indicators of success that we would want to be addressed and them show the evidence that they have addressed these particular criteria.
And how do they pass that evidence to you?
Yeah, and that's where it has worked so good using the shared Google Doc because most of the schools are used to Google. If that doesn't work, we can come up with another way that we can have that interaction. But this gives us a document that we can look at that evidence that's been added in there, and we can sign off on that, and we can override that indicator.
Okay. All right.
And there's a celebration, and they're heading to the conference.
Yes.
Such a great school over in Decatur, and the work that they did, and this was a turnaround and just great success.
Wow. And can we ask where they started prior to becoming a blue ribbon school, since you're saying turnaround?
Right. No, absolutely. This was a school that had very low scores, and they were able to make those shifts and really have those double-digit gains that we're looking for as far as moving them forward to that level, the Blue Ribbon School of Excellence Lighthouse level.
Okay. And I don't feel like we went through the levels. What are the levels to get to the Blue Ribbon School?
Right. So there's 120 indicators. Once you reach 50% of those indicators, you're what we call a points of light school, which we recognize through a certificate. Once you reach 80% of the indicators in each of the 9 performance areas, then we're going to recognize you as a beacon school, and that's a beautiful recognition at the national conference each year on Thursday of the conference week. And then once you've been recognized by 80%, meeting 80% of those performance indicators, and then all of the critical areas, and we talked about one of those critical areas, teacher mentoring program, then you reach that lighthouse status. And that's, again, coming to Disney, the award, the flag, just the branding nationally and locally, that you have that mark of distinction.
Okay, so there's 3 levels is what you're saying.
Yeah.
Three, okay, so they're structured all the way through. And we're going to get to the conference, but the big question that everyone always asks both of us, what, and I'm going to stop this for a minute, so it's just you and I, but what is the difference between Blue Ribbon Schools of Excellence and the federal Blue Ribbon program?
Absolutely. And such a, again, a great question, but always that confusion.
Yes.
I can speak pretty well to that because my background is with the U.S. Department of Education, and of course, spending many years celebrating those schools and traveling across the country and presenting those awards. Both tremendous program. Any program that's going to recognize the success of a school is so worthy. We just saw this week where the national program made their announcement of over 300 schools across the country as national Blue Ribbon schools. So the difference would be these schools are recommended based on nomination. So the district or the state liaison from each Department of Education across the country would reach out and invite schools to fill out an application. Just thinking about South Carolina and Alabama this past week, I think there was 5 schools in each state that became national Blue Ribbon schools. And it's so cool because we always see one of our schools that are in there. So many schools that actually are recognized by both programs. But the federal program does look at schools that are in that top 15% in their state as far as achievement. So you're in the top 15% as far as test scores. But there is also a category for achievement in whether it's language or math. So you've got that growth achievement. So they're also that level of recognition too that you'll see, the Terrell Bell winners. And so, but it is a nomination process. If you're interested in that program, I would encourage you to reach out to your state department, get to know the Blue Ribbon liaison, ask about how you even get considered for a nomination. With our program, there is not a nomination process. You just reach out to us, let us know that this is something that you want to go through as a school improvement process, but we also, of course, have that recognition component as well.
And you have to be in the top 15% to reach out?
For us?
Yes.
No, any school, all schools can reach out. Again, we have worked with turnaround schools that are in the bottom 15%. So any school that's interested in really making that investment and looking at ways that they can push their school forward.
I'm going to say something about what I've seen as the difference, and I hope that you're okay with this, that we have seen the data that you look at is current data. And I feel like that really makes a difference in how your stakeholder walkthroughs are helping schools move through this, is that we are starting with today as opposed to a collection of what's happened in the past. And I think that that's a big differentiator between what's happening at your program as opposed to the federal program, although both great programs, like you're saying.
Absolutely. Yeah, we're going to look at, not only the data from the Blue Ribbon report, which is looking at all those 9 indicators, but we're going to look at your testing data that you have available, formative and summative, anything that you can show us that you've done with your students. And then that on-site visit. The federal program no longer has the on-site visit, and we just find that is so important to come on site and validate our findings.
Yes, and I have earmarked some of my absolute favorite schools going through that process with your team, just using some of them, particularly the one that we've both visited in Brooklyn is one of my favorite all-time schools. Okay, so the benefits of going with Blue Ribbon Schools of Excellence, what are you hearing? Such as the school that went from a D and N to an A in a year and a half, which to me is like fantastic. I know that's a benefit, but what are the other benefits that you're hearing? Because you have, since I have witnessed this over the last few years, it just seems to double, double, double every year the amount of schools that you're working with. So you're doing something right.
Yeah, thank you, Michelle. I think that schools are really looking for that validation. They know
Mhm.
they're doing a lot of really, really good things, but they want to be better.
Yeah.
And they're open to learning the new ideas and ways that other schools may be doing things different. I think that getting the whole community engaged in the process and listening to all of those stakeholders, the community stakeholders, the parents and the students and teachers and support staff and administrators, I think that is a way to really make everyone feel like they have a voice in improving the school.
Yes, for sure. And just a few sort of general questions from
Sure.
an educational perspective. Since COVID, what do you feel has been your biggest aha moment on how education has changed with your experience in all of these walkthroughs?
Yeah, the first one, of course, that would come to mind would be technology, which is one
Yeah.
of our performance indicators. And that's no longer, show us your technology plan because people have that. It's on
Yeah.
the forefront. Here's our technology plan. We
Yeah.
rarely see that falling on an action plan anymore. Of course, social emotional learning and mental health services,
Hmm.
those things are more and more important and needed in our schools. So that's another area that we feel like that student needs are being addressed at a greater level. So we're looking at those things. But those would be two quick ones that I
Hmm.
would note that I've seen a huge shift in since COVID.
And to piggyback on that, from our perspective, it's data literacy. We've seen a decline, a great decline in data literacy since COVID. And with all of the, I guess, everybody coming in and out of education, it's definitely something that I'm glad you're out there helping districts, because I know you look at the data and teach about how to read the data, and it's so needed. So we went through how the difference between federal and regular Blue Ribbon, on how we can become a Blue Ribbon school, that you do not have to be in the top 15%. You can be any school and reach out to the Blue Ribbon program and sign up to go through the stakeholder walkthroughs. And then we talked about there are the 3 levels of awards that you can get to the main, this lighthouse, the very end
Mhm.
award, the
The
lighthouse
lighthouse,
award.
yeah.
The benefits of being involved in the program are numerous, and there's plenty of district contacts that I know Judy could pair anyone that's interested with to have a conversation on how her program has made such a difference in the lives of their schools and districts. And then also what's really kind of happened since COVID. So one of our favorite events every year happens in November. And this will be my maybe 5th total, because I had a few years of not uh, being able to attend, but I'm going to put this back on the screen for you to talk about your annual conference, which is coming up soon. I literally can't even believe
I know. I got
it.
a notice that it was 60 days
Oh
out.
my gosh.
So I know.
Yes.
I know. So most of our information is on blueribbonschools.com, but here
Okay.
is the link to the registration. We're
Mhm.
trying to keep the conference schedule updated and on there, but wow, has this one really grown? We traditionally, and this year again, we're kicked off by the current national principal of the year, and Donna's out of Connecticut this year, a high school principal out of Connecticut.
Mhm.
Have 3-4 days of just back to back over 100 sessions from some of the best
Mm.
schools in the country where you can come in and get those best practices. We're sharing information on how to become a blue ribbon school. There's schools there that are both Blue Ribbon Schools of Excellence Lighthouse schools, and then many, many national Blue Ribbon schools that we talked about from the federal program, because this continues to be a forum for them to come in and share their best practices with other schools. So we have about 100 schools that present. We have over 600 attendees each year, and we're going to have the largest exhibit hall that we've ever had this year. So it's just a great time to come in and get recharged and continue that healthy path on your professional development. We just invite everybody to come in and be a part of it. And who doesn't want to be in Orlando in December?
That is true. I know that before we even started, we were talking about how districts bring boatloads and busfuls of people from their districts. You said maybe one had 25 signed up for one district. From the professional development side, can you share one or two examples of some of the information that they'll be getting? I think people think, oh, maybe you just go to that conference to learn how to be it. And I know those 100 sessions cover such important information that doesn't really have anything to do with Blue Ribbon.
Oh, absolutely. So we're going to have a lot of sessions on reading. We're going to have a lot of sessions on math. We're going to have a lot of sessions on school, family, community partnerships. How do you build those partnerships? It just goes on and on and on as far as those best practices we have for people to come in and split up your teams and go to different sessions and then huddle at the end of the day and share, and then go back to your school and share more with your whole school community. So one of the things that we can do after the session is post that and share out the conference schedule with everyone.
Oh, absolutely. Who are some of the keynotes this year? I know we're going to look forward to Dr. Danielle Dickey doing his literacy amazingness. Who else is on the schedule?
Absolutely. Caleb Campbell is a newbie. And he's going to be talking about, of course, mental health and social emotional learning. And I think he's going to be an inspiration, because not only are we facing those issues with students, but teachers as well. You know, how do we maintain that healthy mindset as teachers? So I think he's going to be super good. And then we had a recommendation from our friends in Nashville for Patrick Briggs from Abbott. And Patrick is from the Northeast. So we're really excited about hearing from him and what he's going to bring to the conference this year too.
Oh, fantastic. I really encourage, if you have not been to the conference, to go. It's a fantastic, fantastic time. Judy, there's no conferences like a Dr. Judy Warden-Field's conference. She just knows how to throw a great event, and there's lots of fun, and you can bring your families. There's discounted tickets that you can have access to enter the parks there. And so it's really a great time, and we look forward to it. I'm looking forward to it this year, and have made amazing memories every single year that I've been, as well as contacts and great people that we're still in contact with today, from making sure that we're in all of these schools doing what we should do. So I thank you so much for talking with us today and educating everyone on the differences between Federal Blue Ribbon and Blue Ribbon Schools of Excellence, as well as inviting everyone, no matter what state your school is in, to reach out and join you for a stakeholder walkthrough. Again, how do they go? I know I have your site here up, but if they wanted to start a walkthrough, they just go to blueribbonschools.com and click to schedule your assessment.
Absolutely. Or they can reach out to me, Judy at blueribbonschools.com. Would love to have that conversation as well. Either way, we're very open to the conversation and how our process can work for you. And we usually start with a conversation with the principal. What are your successes? What are your challenges? How can we help you in that path forward? So would love to connect with anyone that's interested in looking at Blue Ribbon Schools.
All right. She said Judy, Judy, at blueribbonschools.com. And if you're uncomfortable doing that, you're more than welcome to reach out to any of the EdPower staff. Judy, again, I sit on the board. She's an advisor for EdPower, so we can get in contact with her very easily and are more than willing to talk you through that assessment process if you're interested in doing it with Blue Ribbon Schools of Excellence. So Judy, as always, you're one of my favorite humans. Thank you so much for talking
Thanks.
with me today. And I very much look forward to seeing you in a couple months.
Very, very good. Thank you so much, Michelle and EdPower,
Mhm.
for the opportunity. We appreciate it.
Absolutely. Take care.
Okay, thank you.
Bye-bye.